You know, we often think of cancer as this big, mysterious disease. But what if I told you it always leaves clues? Today, we're going to decode those signals, from the very first things that can trigger a tumor, all the way to the truly bizarre and unexpected ways it can show up in our bodies. Let's get into it. So let's start with a real head-scratcher. How is it possible that a tumor, say, in your lung, could cause symptoms like weight gain or high blood pressure? It doesn't seem to connect, right? Well, this isn't science fiction. This is the central mystery we're going to solve today. And trust me, the answer is fascinating.
So first things first, where does this all even begin? Well, the whole process is often kicked off by things from the outside world, sort of like silent invaders that mess with our body's fundamental programming. They have a specific name, and they're probably way more common than you think.
And that official name is carcinogen. The simplest way to think about it is this. A carcinogen is basically anything that has the potential to damage a healthy cell's DNA, pushing it down that road to becoming cancerous. It's a really broad term, so to get a handle on it, we've got to break it down. We can basically sort all carcinogens into three main groups. First, you've got chemical agents. Then there are physical agents, like radiation. And finally, and this one might surprise you, microbial agents, like viruses and bacteria. We're going to look at each one, but let's start with the one we encounter the most.
All right, let's dive into that first category, the chemical agents. A lot of these are hiding in plain sight, in places you might not expect.
Wow. Okay, when you look at this list, you really start to see how common these things are. Of course, there's tobacco smoke. That's a big one. But then you have mold on food like peanuts or chemicals used to preserve meats. And here's the really wild part. In a strange twist, even some drugs designed to fight cancer can sometimes, rarely, have the potential to cause it later on.
Okay, so it's not just about industrial chemicals, right? The threat can also come from, well, from nature itself, from the sun in the sky to the microscopic world that lives inside of us.
This is such a great way to think about it. Imagine your DNA is this incredibly long, complex blueprint. UV radiation from the sun is like a tiny vandal, constantly causing little breaks and errors in that blueprint. Now your cells have this amazing repair crew that's always on the job, fixing the damage. But here's the problem. If you get too much sun, you just completely overwhelm the crew, and some of those errors, the mutations, start to slip through.
And then you've got this category, which is just unbelievable. We're talking about germs. The bacteria H. pylori, which is a super common cause of stomach ulcers, is also linked to stomach cancer. We all know about viruses like HPV and hepatitis, but even parasites like a type of flatworm can be on the list. It really shows you this deep, complex connection between infections and cancer.
Okay, so we've looked at what can get the ball rolling. Now let's circle all the way back to our original mystery, those strange, long-distance symptoms. This whole phenomenon actually has a name.
It's called a paraneoplastic syndrome. And here's the key. These symptoms are not caused by the tumor just physically pushing on something. No, what's happening is that the tumor itself starts acting like a rogue factory. The same genetic mess that makes it grow out of control can also flip on genes that are supposed to be silent, causing the tumor to pump out powerful substances like hormones that then travel through the body and cause chaos somewhere else entirely. Get this. This is an absolutely perfect example. A small cell carcinoma, that's a type of lung cancer, can suddenly start producing a hormone that causes something called Cushing's syndrome. So the patient's main problems might have nothing to do with their lungs. They might have unexplained weight gain, a puffy face, high blood pressure, and the real culprit, the rogue factory, is hiding out in the lung. It's truly cancer's hidden signal.
So, finding these hidden signals, both the weird symptoms and the tumor itself, is the job of pathologists. So, let's peek behind the curtain and go inside the lab to see how they turn these clues into a real diagnosis.
Okay, here are two words you hear all the time with cancer, but they're super easy to mix up: grading and staging. Grading is all about quality. The question is, how abnormal and messed up do the cells look under a microscope? Staging is about quantity and location. The question there is, how big is the tumor and where has it spread to? You absolutely need both to figure out the best way to treat it.
Now, to figure all that out, pathologists have this whole arsenal of tools. They start with the classic stuff, looking at tissue and cells under a microscope. But today, they go so much deeper. They use these incredible techniques to find specific protein markers on cells, and most importantly, to actually read the cancer's genetic code.
And really, that's the name of the game now. It's not just about looking at cells anymore. Modern diagnosis has become a form of high-tech genetic detective work.
The goal is to find the exact rogue genes that are telling the cancer to grow, grow, grow. It's not enough to know what it is. Doctors now want to know why it is.
Now, these tables might look super complicated, but don't worry, you don't have to read every single line. The big idea here is actually pretty simple and easy to remember. These genetic detectives are looking for two main types of culprits. The first are called oncogenes. Think of those as the car's accelerator. When they get mutated, it's like the gas pedal is jammed to the floor. The other culprits are tumor suppressor genes. Their job is to be the brakes, and when they get broken, the car has no way to stop. Modern diagnosis is all about figuring out, is the accelerator stuck, are the brakes broken, or is it both?
So we've gone all the way from the carcinogens that cause that first little bit of damage to the genetic detectives who can read a cancer's unique blueprint. It really leaves us with this huge forward-looking question. As we get better and faster at identifying the exact broken parts, the specific stuck accelerators and broken brakes, how is that going to completely change medicine? Will every cancer treatment one day be a custom-made solution for a very specific genetic problem? That future is probably closer than any of us think.